Oh, how I'm glad for contextual essays and supporting material. When I finished reading Little Woman, my first impression was that this might have been a relevant and somewhat disruptive book for its time, but it also conforms with a lot of presently outdated beliefs. And it was only by reading the essays contained in the 100th annotated anniversary edition that I understood exactly how much change this book brought about, as well as what and how cultural and social forces of the time influenced Alcott's work. The story of the Marsh family is largely based on the author's own family. Jo can be easily traced back to Louisa herself, while Meg, Beth, and Amy correspond to the author's sisters Anne, Elizabeth, and May. The dreams and aspirations of the beloved characters can be spotted in the lives of this fair woman, who also grew up in a family with fewer means, with a father who was often away from home, and a mother who the daughters idealized as having given her all to the family and the community. Jo's story in particularly can be closely tied to that of Louisa Alcott. Standing out from her sisters due to her tomboyish and independent nature, the author herself also found a safe space in writing and developed literary ambitions early on in her life. This was an uncommon path for women at the time. Female authors had to work even harder than their male counterparts in order to prove themselves, and were frowned upon even after achieving success. As one of Alcott's neighbors, Nathaniel Hawthorne, elegantly puts it, "America is now given over to a damn mob of scribbling women, and I should have no chance at success while the public taste is occupied with their trash, and should be ashamed with myself if I did succeed." Given the social landscape of the time of publication of Little Woman, it is undeniable the impact that a character such as Jo had in young female readers of the 19th century. Jo unapologetically opens up a path for girls to be less feminine and delicate if they wish to, and to some extent to follow their ambitions and pursue independence. Note that I say to some extent here, because indeed Jo ends up abandoning her seeking for literary greatness so as to dedicate herself to marriage and children. These turn of events after Jo repeatedly refused Laurie's proposals disappointed me significantly. Enter contextual essays and supporting material. Alcott would have probably chosen for Jo the same fate she chose for herself, that of a successful literary spinster. But due to pressures from the readers and her publisher to follow the conventions of the time, Alcott found a compromise in Mr. Bear. The German character allows Jo to remain herself, be her partner's intellectual equal, and contribute to the household evenly. Some theorize that this was Alcott's way of rebelling against the public's desire to see Jo and Laurie end up together, instead marrying her off to a far less attractive character. This example shows perfectly how multi-layered and complex the tale of Little Woman truly is once we take into account the author's life story. Throughout the book, we notice that Alcott takes her time, bringing the reader close to the characters. She crafts a story in a beautiful manner, which results in a sense of familiarity and emotional investment from the part of the reader. This reaches its zenith in Beth's death scene, an intense episode which is notably based on a real-life experience with the author's sister, Elizabeth. I can only imagine the impact that such a chapter must have on young readers, as Beth is an adorable character which we grow very fond of throughout the book. Alcott manages the scene genially, guiding the reader through it in a sheltering manner, allowing them to peer into Beth's last moments and to see their pain replicated in the family's actions during and after the death. The feeling of proximity to the character and to those who care for her is what makes this scene so brilliant. However, there is one point in the story where it seems that the author almost purposefully rushes the development and risks its realism. After growing up in love with his best friend and repeatedly asking Jo for a chance, Laurie only needs a few months to fall out of love with Jo and in love with Amy. Upon Laurie's and Amy's return from Europe, the young man is described as acting towards Jo in a brotherly manner, which only adds to the contrast of this transition. With Alcott accompanying the reader through the majority of the book and then rushing through this change of heart, made it really hard for me to take this change seriously. Little Woman is dotted with moral and religious lessons, clearly attempting to teach the reader what is proper and what is not. Some critics praise Alcott for building a novel where this is done through a compassionate mother figure, who talks to the readers on the same level as them rather than talking down to them, which is what most works until then did. While I do agree with the statement, I must also add that as someone reading the book 150 years later, I felt that some of these lessons are significantly outdated, and dare say they may have seemed so already to Alcott at that time. The book's supporting material allowed me to learn that Alcott did fight her publisher on this topic. She even won a discussion on whether the girl should go to Sunday school or present plays in their house on a Sunday morning. This was a risky move, as Sunday schools commanded a lot of sales at the time. It's therefore evidence the author's struggle with her need for tradition and her desire for reform. The mother figure in Little Woman, Marmee, is one of the strong points of the novel. She dances a line between her traditional beliefs and her progressive questioning of parts of the status quo. Marmee shines in her one-on-one talks to the girls. I especially appreciated the honest advice she gave to Jo on how to handle a quick temper, exposing her own flaws and challenges she faced. This scene allows us a glimpse to a more complex character than a first glance at Marmee might have shown. Lastly, when we hear Little Woman being talked about, there is a tendency for people to identify with one of the four sisters. I'm a Meg. Oh, I'm most definitely an Amy with a little bit of Jo. I find this oversimplification slightly problematic. It delineates the tastes, the ambitions, and the traits of the characters and fixes them in place as if almost forever unchangeable. On the other hand, I recognize that such treatment can be comforting for younger readers who are often struggling with defining themselves. The use of a widely held idea of a character allows for the creation of a group of people who identify with it. And this in turn allows individuals to play within the group and understand where the similarities and differences lay, and eventually learn about themselves. Little Woman remains representative of the time it was written in, directly presenting some ideas ahead of its time and simultaneously hiding some of Alcott's progressive and rebellious messages between the lines.